What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it is time for another game preview / game prediction here for the 2023/2024 college football season. And our game preview / game prediction will be the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl matchup between the number 11th ranked Ole Miss Rebels and the number 10th ranked Penn State Nittany Lions. So we're going to give you my game preview / game prediction here for this New Year's Six Bowl matchup here in the Peach Bowl here between Penn State and Ole Miss. Going to give you the stat comparisons here between these two teams, give you the game summary of what time this bowl game is, and also who the favorite going into this bowl game is. And then also we're going to give you their previous game results from the regular season, their previous 5 game results from the 2023 regular season, and then we'll take a look, and then we'll give you the prediction here at the end of this video and how I think the game's going to go down. So let's get right into it here with my Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl prediction here between Ole Miss and Penn State. And we'll start here with the stat comparisons between these two teams. So here are the stats for both of these teams. We'll start with the Ole Miss Rebels. They're coming into this bowl game with a record of 10-2. They're averaging about 34.8 points per game on the year. No surprise that this team is averaging like points in the 30s because this is a very good offensive team. Total yards per game for this Ole Miss team, about 455.6 yards per total yards this year. This is a very good offensive team, a very explosive offense. You know, ever since Lane Kiffin's been there, this offense has been very explosive. Passing yards per game for Ole Miss, about 276.6 yards per passing. Jackson Dart, the official quarterback for this Ole Miss team, has thrown 20 touchdown passes and just about 5 interceptions. He's really close to that 3,000-yard mark. He's just about 2,985 yards on the passing year. He's been really consistent as well at throwing the football and definitely taking care of the football as well. So that is the passing yards for this Ole Miss team. You look at the rushing yards for Ole Miss. This is a Ole Miss team that can run the football pretty well. They're averaging about 179 yards per rushing this year. This is kind of like more of a passing attack team than it is like a running attack team, but they're really good at running the football as well. You got Juckins in the backfield, one of the top running backs for them in the backfield at 1,052 yards of rushing and then about 15 rushing touchdowns. He's coming off a really good season last year, and he's definitely kind of, proven to be like a really future good running back for this Ole Miss team. So they are really good at running the football. And then offensively and defensively here in the rankings for the Rebels, no surprise that the offense is at least in the top 20. They're 16th on offense, and then defensively, that's been their biggest weakness this year. They're 60th on defense. This is not a bad defense that Ole Miss has, but, they're just not really overall that good. They haven't been really good, under the Lane Kiffin era, ever since he arrived there. But this defense, again, is their biggest weakness going into this bowl game. But again, the offense is at least ranked in the top 20. So this is the stats here for the Ole Miss Rebels. Looking at the Penn State Nittany Lions, they're coming in with a record at 10-2 as well. This team is averaging more points per game, surprisingly, than the Ole Miss Rebels at 37.2 points per game. Total yards per game, Penn State's not a very explosive offense, but sometimes they're really good at offense, and sometimes they can be pretty average, but they're averaging about 391 yards of total yards per game this year. Passing yards per game, 204.3 yards per passing. You look at Drew Aller, his first full-time year as a starter for this Penn State team. He's been pretty good. He's got 23 touchdown passes and just 1 interception on the year and about 2,336 yards of passing on the year. So he's been having a really good season as a first full-time year starter. And you look at the running game for, this Penn State team. This is kind of like more of a running attack type team than it is like a passing attack type team. You look at the rushing yards per game, about 186.7 yards per rushing this year. So yeah, this Penn State team, they can run the football pretty well. You look at Kadron Allen in the backfield, a really talented running back for this Penn State team. Leading rusher for this team, about 851 yards on the year and about 6 rushing touchdowns. So he's been having a really good season. He had a really good year last year for Penn State. And then offensively and defensively in the rankings. Again, offensively, they're not the most explosive offense. They're a pretty average type offense, about 61st in the country on offense. And then defensively, that's been their biggest strength. They're the first defense and one of the top defenses in the country heading into this Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl matchup against Ole Miss. So again, Penn State's been very dominant on defense. So these are the stats comparisons here between these two teams in 2023. Stat comparison-wise, Ole Miss has the total yards advantage going into this game. They also have the advantage in the passing yards, but The rushing yard advantage goes to Penn State. They're a really good running attack team. But again, defensively, Penn State has the big advantage there on the defensive side of the football. But again, offensively, this is a really good offensive team that Ole Miss has. So these are the stats here for 2023 for both Ole Miss and Penn State. Let's now move on to the game summary here for this Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. So the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl matchup will take place at noon Eastern Time on December the 30th, so about one day before New Year's Eve. The game will be televised on ESPN. The game will be at Atlanta, Georgia. Penn State, the spread goes to them by 4 points in this game, and the over and under is at 48.5. So they're kind of predicting this game to be a low-scoring type game, which I really could probably see it playing out that way because Penn State has one of the top defenses in the country going into this game. I mean, Ole Miss doesn't have the most explosive offense in the country, but they're at least number 16th in the rankings. We got number 11 versus number 10 here. We got the SEC versus the Big Ten here. Both of these teams ranked in the top 15 in those final playoff rankings at the end of the year. Both of these teams also coming in at 10-2. Both of these teams are pretty similar in like 2 losses. You know, obviously Ole Miss's 2 losses come to like really good teams in the SEC, like the 2 top teams in the SEC in Alabama and Georgia. And then for Penn State, their 2 losses come to like 2 of the top teams in the Big Ten East, and that was Ohio State and Michigan. So both of these teams are pretty similar in record-wise, and they're also pretty similar in like loss-wise as well. So I think it's going to come down to whoever gets the biggest win here. I mean, it's pretty much, whoever gets their 11th win and also their 3rd loss of the season. Going into this game, like I said, Ole Miss has a pretty good offensive team. They've been very explosive on that offensive side of the football ever since Lane Kiffin arrived at Ole Miss. But for Penn State, this has been a really good season for them. Obviously, they went 11-2 last year. Now they had another 10-2 type regular season. Looking to finish out the year of 2023 with high expectations going into next year. You look at this Penn State team, obviously their defense has been the story this year. Again, this is one of the top defenses in the country heading into this Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl matchup. You look at the matchup predictor for the FBI. The FBI favors Penn State in this game. They give them about a 72.2% chance to beat Ole Miss in this game. That's a very high percentage for this Penn State team, according to the FBI. And the FBI gives Ole Miss just about a 27.8% chance to beat Penn State here in this Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl game. So yeah, I was very surprised by the FBI here. I'm surprised that Ole Miss is not given about a 30 or 40% chance. But again, Ole Miss has a great offense going into this game. But I think against that Penn State defense, I think Penn State has what it takes to really shut down this Ole Miss offense. But again, the spread is going to Penn State here by 4 points in this game. And again, the over and under is at 48.5. And this game will be at 12 o'clock noon Eastern Time on December the 30th. That's a look at the game summary here for this Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl matchup. Let's now go to the previous game results here for both of these teams. You look at Ole Miss, they're coming into this game with a record of 10-2. So again, 2 losses on the year to the 2 top teams in the SEC. You look at their previous 5 game results here. They defeated Vanderbilt on October 28th, 33-7. Took care of business in that game. On November 4th, they defeated Texas A&M in a close one there, 38-35. Texas A&M had a chance to, make it like a game or like a game-tying field goal, to send it to overtime, but Ole Miss survived that game. And then they lost to Georgia on the road on November 11th, 52-17. So yeah, they got really blown out in that game. We know that Ole Miss is not on Georgia's level anyways, and that was obviously a road game, a very tough place to play at Georgia, so they lost that game pretty big. And then they defeated ULM Monroe 35-3 with a bounce-back win after losing to Georgia on November 18th. And then their last game was on November 25th. They defeated rival Mississippi State on the road in the Egg Bowl in a 10-point game. The defense for Ole Miss played pretty well in this game, and they won that game 17-7. So those are the previous 5 game results here for this Ole Miss team. And then looking at Penn State, they also come in, like I said, with a record of 10-2. Their 2 losses, of course, come to Ohio State and Michigan. Again, both of these teams are very similar in loss-wise. You look at Penn State, they defeated Indiana in a close one there, 33-24 on October the 28th. They took care of business, though, on the road at Maryland, 51-15. I was very surprised of how that game came out to be on November the 4th. They lost a really close one there to Michigan on November the 11th, 24-15. So, yeah, they were very competitive in that game against Michigan, but just came up a little bit short of an upset there. But they'd bounce back with a win over Rutgers, 27-6 on November 18th. And then they defeated rival Michigan State on the road, shut them out 42-0 on November 24th. So you look at the game result comparisons here between these two teams. Both of them, like I said, have two great losses, on the season to like the two top teams in each of their conferences. But ever since those losses, both of these teams are on 2-game winning streaks heading into this Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl matchup. So these are the previous 5 game results here for both of these teams heading into this matchup. Let's now get to the prediction here for the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl here between Ole Miss and Penn State. Again, a top 15 showdown here between the SEC and the Big Ten Conference. Both of these conferences have really talented rosters and everything. Like I said, going into this game, Ole Miss has the better offense. Penn State has one of the top defenses in the country. How I think this game's going to go down, I think it's a low-scoring type game, kind of compared to the Ohio State and Missouri game. Like I said yesterday, Missouri had the better offense. Ohio State had the better defense. But, again, going into this game, Penn State has a really better defense than Ohio State does. Like I said, I think how this game's going to go down, I think it's a low-scoring type game. I think it stays close here throughout all the 4 quarters in this game. But I tell you what, this is a tough game to call. But the way that Penn State's been playing this year and the way they've been, playing really solid defense as of late, I think this is what's going to make them win the game. With that being said, I think in a close one here, I think Penn State wins this one here in a close one over the Ole Miss Rebels. And my prediction goes to Penn State. I'm going to go with Penn State here in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl to defeat Ole Miss 21-17. And like I said, that defense for Penn State probably keeps Ole Miss from scoring like in the 40s or 30s. And again, I think this Penn State team is good enough to stop the Ole Miss offense from scoring a lot of points. I don't really see this game being like the Georgia game, though. I don't really see it being a blowout. I think Penn State's offense is good enough, but, I don't think their defense... I think their offense is going to probably struggle as well. I think both defenses will probably rule the day, even though Ole Miss's defense is not really that good. But again, Penn State, I think their defense is what's going to win them the game here. And I got Penn State beating Ole Miss here by a final score of 21-17 here in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl / New Year's Six Bowl matchup here between these two teams. So this is my official prediction here for the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl matchup between Ole Miss and Penn State. Let me guys know what you think about this official game preview / game prediction, and also give me your prediction on this Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl matchup between Ole Miss and Penn State down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this game preview / game prediction video, and also thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports channel.